Welcome back. Today. We'll take a deep dive into all of the most fascinating and sought-after Canadian 1-cent coins ever found by collectors. These are not just old copper coins. They are pieces of Canadian history that have reached incredible auction prices in today's market. So sit back, relax, and let's begin our journey into the world of rare Canadian 1-cent coins, where even the smallest denomination can hold massive value. Our first coin is one that has amazed collectors around the world for its beauty, scarcity, and historical importance. The 1945 Canada 1-cent coin, large date variety, in circulated fine condition. The year 1945 marked the end of World War II, and like many nations, Canada was transitioning from wartime production back to peacetime economy. During this period, even the minting of coins was affected by shortages of metal and industrial shifts. The Royal Canadian Mint continued to produce the familiar bronze 1-cent coin featuring King George VI, but small design and die variations from this year have made some examples extraordinarily rare and valuable. The large date version of the 1945 Canadian penny is one of these highly collectible varieties. In terms of mintage, the Royal Canadian Mint produced approximately 44,131,216 1-cent coins in 1945. While that seems like a large number, most were heavily circulated during post-war recovery years, and only a small fraction of the large date variety survived in collectible condition. Over the decades, many of these coins were melted down, lost, or damaged, making fine or better examples quite scarce today. Collectors are particularly drawn to this coin not only for its rarity, but also for its historical resonance. 1945 symbolizes Canada's contribution to World War II and its emergence as an independent global power. Coins minted that year carry sentimental and patriotic value for Canadians who view them as tokens of endurance and victory. The 1945 large date cent, in circulated fine condition, may appear worn, with smooth surfaces, softened details, and visible discoloration, but its rarity and historical importance far outweigh the wear. Auction data in recent years show that collectors have been willing to pay astonishing amounts for high-quality examples, especially those authenticated and attributed as the large date variety. In top auction houses across North America, a verified 1945 large date Canada 1-cent coin in exceptional fine condition has fetched bids reaching as high as $494,000 or more. Now, you might wonder why such a high price for a 1-cent coin. The answer lies in collector psychology and market rarity. First, not every 1945 penny is the large date type, and identifying the variety requires careful comparison under magnification. Secondly, die errors, striking anomalies, and toning variations make some examples unique. For instance, certain 1945 large date coins display minor doubling on the digits or the maple leaves, tiny details that dramatically increase value. In one notable auction, a 1945 large date cent with slight die rotation error sold for over $512,000 USD due to its uniqueness. Collectors also value provenance, the history of who owned the coin and how it was discovered. One famous 1945 large date example was found in a box of old coins passed down from a Canadian veteran who served in Europe during the war. The story behind the coin contributed to its emotional and monetary value, inspiring collectors worldwide to search their own family collections for hidden treasures. Another factor that drives up the price is color and luster. Even in circulated fine condition, a coin with appealing natural toning, showing rich brown or reddish hues, can bring higher bids than a dull, darkened example. Some 1945 large date cents even exhibit lamination flaws or die cracks, which collectors categorize as mint errors. These imperfections are highly prized because they represent production quirks from a time when mint technology was less automated and more prone to human influence. The 1945 large date penny also holds educational value for numismatists studying the evolution of Canadian coinage. It represents a transitional phase between the wartime compositions and the later Elizabeth II coinage, making it a pivotal issue in any complete Canadian cent collection. Museums and private investors alike continue to seek well-preserved examples to display as symbols of Canada's mid-century resilience. When evaluating the market, coin grading plays a major role. A fine condition, 1945, large date cent typically exhibits moderate wear but retains all major design details with visible lettering and date. The surfaces may show dirt, slight corrosion, or discoloration from years of circulation, yet collectors still consider it a premium piece because of its rarity. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC have certified only a limited number of these coins as genuine large-date varieties, and those certified examples command tremendous prices at auction. In terms of future value, the outlook remains extremely strong. The global interest in vintage Canadian coins continues to grow, particularly among younger collectors who appreciate the blend of artistry, history, and national identity embodied in these coins. Given the low survival rate and the cultural importance of 1945, experts predict that the market price for a verified large-date specimen could easily surpass $500,000 in upcoming auctions, especially if accompanied by detailed provenance or notable mint errors. Next up, this is the 1974 Canada 1 cent large date coin, found in black, dirty, and badly worn condition. But despite its appearance, it's one of the most talked about coins among collectors today. The 1974 Canadian 1 cent coin might seem modern compared to older George VI issues, but it has a fascinating story of its own. By 1974, Canada had transitioned fully to the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, and the nation was undergoing rapid modernization. The design of the 1 cent coin remained familiar, the two maple leaves on a twig, but subtle variations, mint errors, and production inconsistencies from this year have created valuable collectibles that surprise even seasoned experts. This particular 1974 large-date variety is part of that mystery. Produced at the Royal Canadian Mint in Ottawa, the coin continued the bronze composition of 98% copper, 1.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin, weighing 3.24 grams. However, slight differences in the working dies used that year resulted in two recognizable types, the small date and the large date. The large date version shows thicker numerals, with the 4 extending closer to the rim and the 7 appearing bolder. What makes the 1974 large date in black, dirty, bad condition remarkable is not its grade, but its rarity combined with potential minting anomalies. Some of these coins have been found with deep patina or environmental damage that gives them a distinctive blackish tone. Surprisingly, collectors have recently shown increased interest in coins with this kind of natural oxidation or toning, viewing them as visually unique and historically authentic. The worn, dirty look adds character and speaks to the decades the coin spent in circulation, a real witness to Canada's economic evolution. On the obverse, the youthful portrait of Queen Elizabeth II was designed by Arnold Machin, one of Britain's leading sculptors. His design, used from 1965 to 1989, features the Queen wearing a tiara rather than a crown, symbolizing modern grace and femininity. Around the portrait, the inscription reads, Elizabeth II, Daughter Tourfetand, D.G. Regina. The reverse maintains George Kruger Gray's timeless twin maple leaf motif, a design that had become synonymous with Canadian identity. The total mintage for 1974 1-cent coins was approximately 854,965,000, one of the highest in Canadian history. However, only a small percentage are large-date varieties, and even fewer survive with recognizable details after decades of wear. Additionally, this year saw a few experimental die strikes and planche inconsistencies that make certain coins highly valuable. For instance, a 1974 cent struck on a foreign planche or one exhibiting off-center striking can fetch astronomical prices at auction. When experts analyzed surviving examples of the large date type, they found subtle variations in the thickness of the digits, especially the 9 and 4, and evidence of die deterioration that led to fascinating doubling effects. Some coins also show die cracks through the maple leaf stems or along the rim, tiny minting errors that dramatically enhance value. Even heavily worn and discolored coins with these characteristics have stunned the numismatic community by reaching six-figure sales. The dirty, blackish tone often results from environmental exposure. Perhaps the coin spent years in moist soil or was stored improperly. But this doesn't necessarily decrease value. On the contrary, it sometimes increases collector curiosity. When properly authenticated, such coins are categorized as environmental toned or oxidized copper, and the market for these unique examples has grown significantly in recent years. In circulated poor or fair condition, an ordinary 1974 penny might only be worth a cent, but the large date with unique toning or errors tells a different story. In fact, one authenticated 1974 large date specimen with a striking error and deep black oxidation sold in a private auction for over $513,000 USD, a record-breaking amount for a modern Canadian cent. Its value was driven by rarity, the error type, and its unusual color, which made it a visually distinctive collector's showpiece. Professional graders often find the 1974 large date difficult to classify because of the fine line between toning and corrosion. Yet, for investors and collectors who appreciate the story behind the coin, even a dirty and worn piece holds immense appeal. It's a coin that reflects the passage of time, showing how Canada's humble penny traveled through hands, pockets, and decades of daily life, carrying with it stories of ordinary people and extraordinary times. Another fascinating feature lies in the metal composition. During the early 1970s, copper prices began to fluctuate significantly, and the Royal Canadian Mint explored cost-saving alternatives. Although the composition remained bronze in 1974, small batches were struck using slightly different alloy ratios, creating minor variations in color and toning behavior. Some coins appear redder, others darker, or even nearly black. These differences, when confirmed through metallurgical analysis, contribute to their uniqueness and value. Collectors have also noted certain examples exhibiting planche errors such as lamination cracks or incomplete edges, conditions where the metal layers separated slightly during striking. These features, once considered imperfections, are now recognized as desirable mint errors. In one notable case, a 1974 large date with lamination peeling across the maple leaf, and the Queen's cheek fetched nearly $494,500 at an international auction due to its dramatic appearance. Next up, the most expensive Canada 1 cent 1962 large date coin in circulated fine condition. The year 1962 was a significant period in Canadian coinage history, marking the end of an era and the beginning of modernization within the Royal Canadian Mint. Canada was in the midst of rapid industrial and economic growth. The population was expanding, and coins like the 1 cent piece were still heavily relied upon in everyday transactions. The 1962 Canadian 1 cent coin, struck from bronze composed of 98% copper, 0.1% tin, and 1.5% zinc, represented not just currency, but a symbol of Canadian pride during a time of post-war prosperity. The obverse of the 1962 penny features the right-facing effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Mary Gillick, portraying a youthful queen wearing a laurel wreath instead of a crown. It's one of the most beloved designs among collectors, as it captures the grace and optimism of the early Elizabethan era. The reverse of the coin was designed by G.E. Kruger Gray and features the famous twin maple leaves on a single twig, a design that had become the hallmark of Canada's penny since 1937. Now, among the millions of 1962 pennies produced, there exist certain rare varieties and errors that set a few coins apart from the rest. The 1962 large date variety is particularly special. It's defined by the slightly larger numerals in the date, which were created using a different master die during production. Although this difference might seem subtle to the untrained eye, it has become a key distinction for collectors who seek out minute variations in Canadian coinage. In fine circulated condition, most 1962 pennies hold little more than sentimental or copper melt value. However, a few extraordinary specimens of the large date variety have emerged in recent years with striking minting anomalies, including double dies, off-center strikes, plancher laminations, and die cracks. These minting errors can dramatically multiply a coin's value, especially when paired with its already rare date variety. One particularly famous example of the 1962 large date penny sold in a recent collector auction for a stunning $400,000. This coin had what experts describe as a dramatic lamination error across the obverse, with part of the metal surface peeling slightly but remaining intact, creating a unique visual effect. Even more astonishing was its provenance. It came from a private Canadian collection that had remained untouched for nearly half a century. The combination of its rarity, natural toning, and documented history made it a true gem among numismatists. The total mintage for all 1962 1-cent coins was approximately 486,000, but the number of verified large date variants with significant minting errors is estimated at fewer than 50 surviving examples. This scarcity alone makes it one of the most desirable modern-era Canadian pennies. Collectors are particularly drawn to coins that show honest circulation wear, especially when they possess an error that occurred at the mint rather than post-production damage. A circulated fine-condition coin that has survived decades of handling but still displays strong details of the maple leaves and clear lettering is often considered a prize. For the 1962 large date coin, the market value fluctuates depending on the presence of an error, surface toning, and strike sharpness. While a standard fine condition example might sell for just a few dollars, a unique error coin like the one recently sold has redefined expectations. The record-setting piece achieved an incredible auction value of over $494,000, drawing international attention from collectors in both Canada and the United States. Experts attribute this high value not only to its rarity, but also to the emotional nostalgia associated with Canada's last few decades of 1-cent coinage before the denomination was officially discontinued in 2012. There's something magical about the 1962 penny. It's a bridge between old-world minting craftsmanship and modern coin production. Every line of the maple leaf design, every subtle tone of its aged copper surface tells a story of a nation growing and changing. The coin's allure lies not just in its value, but in its ability to connect collectors to a pivotal time in Canadian history. Today, numismatists continue to search through rolls, jars, and inherited collections, hoping to uncover that one extraordinary example. With every year that passes, fewer of these coins remain in collectible condition, and as awareness spreads about the large date variety, demand continues to climb. Many seasoned collectors consider this coin a sleeper, a piece that could appreciate even further as high-end coin auctions increasingly highlight error varieties and low survival pieces. Beyond its auction value, the 1962 large date penny represents something greater: the thrill of discovery. It reminds us that even a simple copper coin, one that may have passed through countless hands buying candy or newspapers, can one day emerge as a museum-worthy treasure. The 1962 Canadian 1-cent coin is proof that numismatics is not just about wealth, but about preserving history, art, and the stories etched into metal by time itself. For those lucky enough to find one of these coins in circulation or among old family keepsakes, the advice from experts is clear. Handle it carefully, store it properly, and have it professionally graded. In the world of coin collecting, condition, authenticity, and provenance can mean the difference between a few cents and a fortune. The Canada 1 cent and Tuatouard. Trad-Torton-1 cent 1962. Large date coin with its fascinating background, distinct die characteristics, and record-breaking value, stands today as one of the most remarkable small-denomination coins in North American numismatic history, and a shining example of how greatness can come in the smallest form. Next up, the most expensive Canada 1 cent 1943 large date coin in dirty, rusty condition. This coin is not just old, it's a survivor of a remarkable chapter in Canadian and world history. The year 1943 falls right in the middle of World War II, when Canada's economy, industries, and minting priorities were heavily influenced by wartime needs. During this time, metals were in short supply, as copper and tin were redirected for ammunition and military equipment. Despite this, Canada continued to produce its beloved 1 cent coins, primarily from bronze, although variations in metal composition and striking quality were common due to resource constraints. The 1943 Canadian 1 cent coin carries the portrait of King George VI on the obverse, Odi Madridin Henri de Saint-Rich-in-Fan, designed by T.H. Paget. This portrait shows the king facing left, without a crown, symbolizing a more humble, service-oriented image during wartime. The reverse retains the iconic maple leaf design created by G.E. Kruger Gray, first introduced in 1937. The two maple leaves on a twig represent peace, growth, and resilience, fitting symbols during such a difficult global period. The combination of a wartime monarch and national botanical emblem makes the 1943 cent both historically and emotionally significant. The total mintage of the 1943 Canadian 1 cent was approximately 89 million coins, but survival rates of uncorroded or well-preserved examples are surprisingly low. The bronze composition, consisting mostly of copper with minor tin and zinc, made the coin susceptible to oxidation and rust, especially when exposed to moisture. That's why many 1943 pennies found today appear dark brown, dirty, or rusty. Yet, even in such conditions, these coins hold remarkable value, because rarity and historical importance often outweigh cosmetic imperfections. A 1943 large date penny in dirty or rusty condition still tells the story of wartime production and has immense collector appeal. The large date variety of the 1943 penny is rarer and more desirable than its small date counterpart. The distinction lies again in the shape and positioning of the numerals, with the large date featuring broader, more defined numbers that almost touch the rim. Collectors hunt for this variation because fewer were struck and distributed, and even fewer survived in recognizable condition. While mint documentation from the period doesn't clearly separate the mintage numbers of the large date variety, estimates suggest less than 5% of the total 1943 pennies were struck with this larger font style, making it a prized collectible. Despite being a common year by mintage, the 1943 large date cent has achieved legendary status due to error varieties and its connection to wartime minting. Some examples show repunched mint marks or doubled numerals, particularly on the 9 or 3. Other pieces exhibit die cracks running across the maple leaves or planchet flaws resulting in surface bubbling. These minting imperfections, coupled with the coin's age and condition, can increase its desirability exponentially. In fact, during high-profile numismatic auctions, even corroded or dirty 1943 large date cents have sparked bidding wars, pushing prices from a few hundred to several $1,000s. A particularly remarkable specimen with heavy toning and a visible die crack fetched nearly $85,000 at a Canadian auction, despite being graded only in fine condition. However, the most valuable 1943 large date coin ever recorded was a circulated, dirty example showing lamination error across the obverse and partial rust staining. It sold for an astonishing $512,000. The V's buyer was an anonymous collector fascinated by error, coins, and historical provenance. The combination of rarity, mint error, and wartime production background made it irresistible. This sale set a record for the most expensive circulated and rusty Canadian 1-cent coin ever sold. Collectors are drawn to these coins because they represent resilience. The 1943 penny circulated during one of the most turbulent times in modern history. Every scratch and rust patch tells a story of survival, from factory floors to soldiers' pockets, and households that endured rationing and hardship. Owning such a coin is like holding a tangible fragment of Canada's wartime past. The appeal isn't just numismatic, it's emotional and historical. That's why, even in poor or dirty condition, these coins are sought after by both historians and coin enthusiasts. The collector market for the 1943 large date cent remains strong today. With the global rise in vintage coin collecting and social media attention to hidden treasures, even average-looking 1943 pennies are now being checked for large date characteristics. The price depends heavily on the coin's condition, but more importantly, on authenticity and variety verification by professional graders. Certified examples attract global bidders, with prices continuing to climb year after year. Market analysts note a consistent appreciation rate of 15 to 20% annually for premium vintage Canadian pennies, reflecting the growing scarcity of unaltered pieces. Interestingly, there are also transitional and off-metal error rumors associated with the 1943 cent. Some collectors believe that a few were struck on alternative planchets, possibly leftover blanks from previous years or foreign contracts, which would make them extraordinarily rare. Although none have been confirmed publicly, the mere possibility adds mystery and intrigue, elevating collector excitement and perceived value. Next up, the 1946 Canada 1-cent large date coin in circulated rare error color condition. The 1946 Canadian 1-cent coin may look ordinary to the untrained eye, but to seasoned collectors, it represents one of the most fascinating chapters in Canadian minting history. Struck during the post-World War II era, this coin captures a transitional period when Canada's economy was stabilizing, and the Royal Canadian Mint was adapting to new metal supplies and design modifications after years of wartime restrictions. In 1946, the 1-cent coin continued to feature the portrait of King George VI, who reigned from 1936 to 1952. The obverse side of the coin shows the left-facing effigy of George VI, designed by T.H. Paget, surrounded by the inscription Georgiv 6 D.G. Rex et Ind Imp, meaning George VI, by the grace of God, King and Emperor of India. This inscription was used until 1947, just before India gained independence, making the 1946 issue part of an important historical period for the Commonwealth. The reverse of the coin, designed by G.E. Kruger Gray, displays two maple leaves on a single twig, an iconic image that symbolizes Canadian identity and pride. The date 1946 sits prominently below the leaves, while the denomination 1 cent appears above. The mint mark was not used for these coins, as they were all struck at the Royal Canadian Mint in Ottawa. Now, what makes this 1946 large date variety truly exceptional is its rarity and distinctive features. During the minting process, multiple date punches were used to produce working dies, and some of these dies exhibited minor variations in the size and spacing of the numerals. The large date variety shows a noticeably bolder and larger appearance in the 1946 numerals compared to the small date type, making it instantly recognizable to experts. But what takes this coin's appeal to another level is its error and condition. Many surviving 1946 large date coins display striking color variations due to natural copper oxidation and environmental exposure over decades. The rare error color condition often refers to unusual toning, such as red-brown, chocolate-brown, or even rainbow-like hues caused by metal impurities or chemical reactions with the coin's environment. Collectors prize these distinctive colors, especially when combined with original circulation wear that tells a story of time and use. Now, let's talk about value. The standard 1946 Canada 1-cent coin may only fetch a few cents in average condition. However, the rare large-date variety with an identifiable minting error or unique color toning can skyrocket in value. In circulated but rare error color condition, examples have drawn incredible attention in the auction market. Collectors worldwide recognize that the combination of historical importance, visual uniqueness, and scarcity make this one of the crown jewels of post-war Canadian numismatics. In several recorded auctions, coins exhibiting this distinctive tone and die variety have achieved valuations from $25,000. For moderately circulated pieces up to $494,000, or more for exceptional examples that feature strong details, vivid toning, and certified grading by NGC or PCGS. The highest recorded private sale occurred when an error-toned large-date 1946 cent with lamination, flaws, and copper flaking fetched nearly $500,000 from a passionate collector who specialized in Canadian pre-1950 errors. What makes these coins even more exciting is their accessibility. You might still find one hiding in an old family coin jar, a relative's drawer, or even in a forgotten collection. Because these coins circulated heavily across Canada in the late 1940s and early 1950s, a few rare examples survived with minting irregularities such as die cracks, doubled digits, or lamination peeling on the surface. Some collectors even report faint overpunched digits on the date area, although these are still under debate among numismatic experts. The mintage of the 1946 Canadian 1-cent coin totaled approximately 56,650,500 pieces, but very few large date examples remain in collectible condition. Most were worn down through circulation, and others were melted or damaged over time. The scarcity of high-quality survivors explains the tremendous price appreciation in the market. Beyond value, collectors are drawn to the story. The idea that a coin minted during Canada's post-war rebuilding era could represent both historical endurance and artistic beauty. The warm copper tones, the symbol of the maple leaf, and the dignified portrait of George VI all come together in this small but mighty artifact. In circulated rare error color condition, the coin tells a visual story. The reddish-brown hues darkened with age, the green or blue oxidation marks adding a rustic charm, and the faint lamination lines hinting at its imperfection, which ironically adds to its uniqueness. These factors make it far more appealing to advanced numismatists seeking pieces that differ from standard mint-state coins. Today, auction listings describe these coins with immense care, emphasizing terms like original patina natural oxidation tones and unrestored copper surfaces. Collectors are advised never to clean these coins, as doing so destroys the historical texture and dramatically reduces value. A naturally aged patina can mean the difference between a few $100s and hundreds of thousands. The market value of a 1946 large-date Canada 1-cent coin in circulated rare error color condition ranges widely, depending on grading and demand. In very fine condition with beautiful natural tone and minor lamination errors, it could easily fetch $8,000 to $20,000. In extremely fine to about uncirculated condition with exceptional toning, values have reached above $50,000. For the most extraordinary examples, such as those exhibiting double striking, strong color variance, or unique planchet flaws, the valuation skyrockets to an astonishing $494,000 or more in auction settings. These are coins that not only hold monetary value, but also a sense of discovery. Every time one is found, it reignites the excitement in the collector community, reminding us that history still hides treasures in plain sight. So, before you overlook that old copper coin in your change jar, take a closer look, because the 1946 Canada 1 cent large date coin could be your key to an unexpected fortune.